On a seemingly typical morning, I noticed a solitary envelope resting neatly on the kitchen table. My name was elegantly inscribed in his unmistakable script, gazing up at me. Initially, I assumed it was a casual note, perhaps indicating he'd left early for the office or gone to see his mother. Yet, the moment my fingers grazed the paper, a sinking feeling churned in my gut, hinting this was no ordinary message. A heavy weight settled in my chest, as if the stillness of the house carried its own silent voice. His shoes were absent from their usual spot by the door, and the bed lay in disarray, a subtle sign that something was deeply amiss. As I stood there, the envelope quivering in my grasp, an unsettling premonition gripped me. I sensed this wasn't going to be good news. The envelope felt oddly significant, like the tense calm before a storm when the world pauses, yet everything feels off-kilter. With trembling hands, I carefully tore it open, my fingers struggling to maintain their grip. At the top of the page, 2 words stood starkly alone, stealing the air from my lungs. Farewell, Emmer. The letter unraveled like a confession, though not one I'd anticipated. His words poured out with a calm precision I hadn't expected. He revealed he'd known for some time. Since that evening I returned home carrying the faint scent of another's cologne, claiming I'd been caught up at work. He'd seen through it all. The secretive phone calls I took in another room, the extra showers, the supposed girls' nights, that were anything but. What shattered me wasn't that he'd pieced it together. It was his restraint, his choice to wait, giving me the chance to confess on my own, hoping I'd own up to the truth. He wrote that he watched me transform into a stranger, someone he could no longer connect with. Day by day, it eroded him, leaving him empty, with nothing left to cling to. He didn't express hatred. That was the most painful part. If he'd lashed out, shouted, or seethed with anger, I could have accepted it as my due punishment. Instead, his words were measured, composed, tinged with hurt yet resolute. He explained that he loved me enough to release me, knowing that staying would ruin us both. In that instant, I realized I'd already shattered everything we had. I collapsed to the floor, the letter trembling in my hands as tears overwhelmed me, not just from guilt but from the stark awareness of my actions. My selfishness, my obliviousness to the treasure I'd had, came crashing down. I'd traded something genuine, something steadfast, for a fleeting, hollow thrill. The man I'd betrayed wasn't just my partner. He was the one who quietly folded my clothes when I forgot, who soothed my anxieties with gentle back rubs, who memorized the exact way I took my coffee and kissed my forehead each night before sleep. I'd thought he overlooked the small things, but he'd seen everything, quietly, deeply, without ever making a scene. I'd taken him for granted, and now I was facing the consequences. Desperate, I tried calling him, but his phone was switched off. Texts and emails went unanswered. And when I drove to his workplace, I learned he'd taken an extended leave. That's when the truth hit me. This wasn't an impulsive choice. He'd planned his departure, not out of spite, but from a place of profound heartbreak. He needed distance from me, from the life we'd shared. The days that followed blurred together as I replayed every moment I'd ignored. The evenings when his gaze lingered on me a little too long, the quiet dinners where he waited for me to open up, but I stayed silent. The mornings he'd ask, "Are you all right?" And I'd brush it off with a forced smile. I clung to the hope he might return, that we could talk, maybe mend things. But weeks turned into months, and word came through friends that he'd relocated to a smaller town, starting anew. He never spoke ill of me, simply stating that things hadn't worked out, leaving it at that. Eventually, I wrote back to his letter, not with justifications or defenses, but with raw honesty. I admitted I was wrong, that I loved him, that I'd destroyed something beautiful because I didn't know how to cherish true love. I didn't expect a response, and none came. He'd already said his farewell. I keep his letter still, carefully folded and stored in a drawer I rarely touch. It serves as a quiet reminder of what love can be. Patient, observant, enduring.